Trembling with cold, a freezing 16-year-old knocked on a billionaire's door selling candles for survival. Inside his mansion, she found a photo of the father who supposedly abandoned her 11 years ago. "Where did you get this?" she asked, shook. The man's coffee mug shattered on the floor. "I didn't know David had a daughter," he breathed. What he told her next would destroy her mother's decade-long lie. Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. The winter wind in Baltimore, Maryland, cut sharply against 16-year-old Lila Armstrong's cheeks as she hurried down the sidewalk with a cardboard tray of homemade candles. Each one was made from leftover wax scraps she melted together in thrift store pots. Mismatched colors swirled into something that almost looked intentional. She hated selling on cold days. But her mother's infection was getting worse, and their electricity bill was 3 days from cutoff. The apartment heater had died weeks ago. Last night, Lila slept in her coat with 2 blankets and still woke shivering. Today, she needed $50 by nightfall. She'd already tried 3 neighborhoods with nothing to show for it. The upper-middle-class families in Riverside Heights had politely declined through cracked doors, their warm houses glowing behind them. The middle-class section of Parkview was worse. Doors closed before she finished her pitch, faces tight with suspicion or pity. In the low-income area near her own apartment, people apologized with genuine sadness. "I wish I could, sweetie, but we're barely hanging on ourselves," one woman had said. Lila's fingers were numb. Her tray felt heavier with every step. She should go home, accept defeat, figure out how to stretch another day without power. But instead, she turned toward Fells Ridge, the wealthiest part of the city, sprawled across the hilltop like a gated kingdom. Massive contemporary mansions with floor-to-ceiling windows, pristine streets without a single pothole, cars that cost more than most people's houses. It was the kind of place that looked like a movie set, so perfect it didn't seem real. Lila had never sold here before. People this rich didn't answer their own doors. But desperation made her brave. The largest house sat at the very top of the hill, a sprawling glass and stone estate surrounded by tall iron gates. A black Tesla was parked in the circular drive. Everything about it screamed "keep out." Lila's hand trembled as she pressed the intercom button. Silence. Then a low, rough male voice crackled through the speaker. "Who is it?" "Hi, sir. My name is Lila. I'm selling handmade candles. They're only $5 each. I'm just—" Silence again. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for rejection. "How many do you have?" Her eyes flew open. "8, sir." A long pause. Then, "Wait there." The gate unlocked with a soft electronic buzz. Lila gasped. The front door opened, revealing a tall man in a charcoal sweater and expensive jeans. His face was handsome but exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble shadowing his jaw, silver watch glinting on his wrist. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. She recognized him immediately, Elias Carter, the Billionaire CEO whose face appeared on Forbes covers and tech conference posters. He studied her shivering form, her worn jacket, cracked hands, and the desperate hope in her eyes. "Come inside," he said gently. "You're freezing." Lila hesitated. Her mother's warnings echoed in her mind. Never go into a stranger's house. But Elias looked more broken than dangerous, and she was so cold. She stepped into the warm foyer. The mansion was silent and spotless. Marble floors reflected soft lighting, designer furniture arranged with museum precision. Massive abstract art pieces on the walls worth more than her yearly rent. "I'll buy them," Elias said quietly. "All 8.
But first, let me get you something hot to drink." He disappeared into the kitchen before she could respond. Lila stood frozen, clutching her tray. She didn't belong here. Everything felt too clean, too expensive, too other.
She drifted toward the living room, drawn by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the snowy yard. Then something on the mantle caught her eye. A framed photograph. Two men standing together, arms around each other's shoulders. One was a younger Elias, smiling genuinely, so different from the haunted man who just left the room. The other man was her father, David Armstrong. Lila's breath stopped. No, that was impossible. Her hands trembled as she lifted the frame, bringing it closer. Same dark eyes, same crooked smile, same scar above his left eyebrow from when he'd fallen off a bike as a kid. Her mother had told me that story once, back when she still talked about him. Her father? Who walked out when she was 5, who abandoned them without looking back, who wanted nothing to do with her? Why was his photo displayed in a billionaire's mansion? Behind her, footsteps approached. "Here, I made you." The coffee mug slipped from Elias's grip and shattered on the marble floor, hot liquid spreading in a dark pool. Lila spun around, still clutching the frame. "Where did you get this?" she demanded, voice shaking. Elias stared at her, really stared, like he was seeing her for the first time. His face had gone completely white. "Who?" He took a step forward. "Who are you?" "That's my dad," Lila said, pointing at the photo with the trembling finger. "David Armstrong. Why do you have his picture?" Elias's legs seemed to give out. He sank onto the nearby couch, hands covering his face. "I didn't know," he whispered. "God, I didn't know David had a daughter." "What are you talking about?" Lila's heart was pounding so hard it hurt. "Do you know him? Where is he?" Elias looked up at her, and his expression was filled with such devastating grief that Lila took an involuntary step backward. "Lila," his voice cracked on her name, "your father didn't abandon you." The room tilted. "Then where?" "He died," Elias whispered, "right in front of me." Lila shook her head violently. No, that's not true. My mom said he left us, that he didn't want—" "He died, saving my life," Elias interrupted, standing up slowly. His eyes were wet. "During an attack on our office, he pushed me out of the way and took the bullet meant for me." The frame slipped from Lila's hands. "Lila," Elias's voice broke completely. "Your father died a hero, and I owe him my life." Lila couldn't breathe. The room swam around her. The expensive furniture, the pristine floors, the shattered coffee mug spreading its dark stain across white marble. "No," she whispered. "You're lying." Elias shook his head slowly, painfully. "I wish I was." "My mom said, she told me he left, that he didn't want us anymore." "Your mother lied to you." His voice was gentle but firm. "Lila, sit down, please. Let me tell you what really happened." She didn't want to sit, didn't want to hear it, but her legs were shaking so badly she sank onto the couch anyway, hands clenched in her lap. Elias sat across from her, elbows on his knees, face in his hands. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. "It was late, nearly midnight. David and I were working on a prototype. We were partners, building Carter innovations from nothing, just two guys in a rented office with a dream." He looked up, eyes distant. "Someone broke in, masked, armed.
I found out later they were hired by a competitor involved in illegal data trafficking. They wanted me dead before our launch. Lila's nails dug into her palms. David heard them first, pushed me behind a desk, told me to stay down. Elias's voice cracked. The man found us anyway, raised his gun. And David, your father, he didn't hesitate. He threw himself between us. A sound escaped Lila's throat, half sob, half denial. The bullet hit him in the chest. Elias continued, tears streaming down his face now. I caught him as he fell, held him while we waited for the ambulance. He was trying to say something, but there was so much blood, his voice broke completely. He died in my arms before they arrived. The world tilted sideways. Everything Lila thought she knew, every bitter thought about her absent father, every moment she'd felt unwanted, every time she'd wondered what was wrong with her that made him leave, it was all built on a lie. Why? The word tore out of her. Why would she tell me he abandoned us? I don't know, Elias said helplessly. After the funeral, I tried to find you, both of you. I hired investigators. Your father was my best friend. More than that, he was my brother. I wanted to take care of his family. But your mother, he gestured helplessly. She disappeared, changed her phone number, moved apartments, left no forwarding address. It was like she vanished on purpose. That doesn't make sense, Lila's voice rose. We've been struggling for years, barely surviving. If you wanted to help, if you tried to find us. I know. Guilt flooded Elias's face. I should have tried harder, done more, but I convinced myself she'd moved on, remarried, found a better life, and didn't want reminders of what happened. He looked at her directly. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry. Lila stood up abruptly, pacing. She let me think he didn't love me, let me grow up believing I wasn't enough to make him stay. Anger boiled in her chest, hot and unfamiliar. We've been freezing in that apartment. I've been selling candles on street corners. She's sick and we can't afford medicine. And the whole time I would have helped, Elias finished quietly, if I'd known where you were. Lila turned on him. Why? Why would she hide us? I've asked myself that for 12 years. Elias stood, moving closer but keeping distance between them. Maybe she blamed me for what happened. Maybe seeing me would have been too painful. Maybe she wanted to protect you from... From what? Lila demanded. From the truth? From money that could have saved us? From danger, Elias said softly. The word hung in the air. What danger? The people who hired that assassin, they were never caught. The investigation went cold. For all I know, they're still out there. He met her eyes. Maybe your mother thought staying hidden was the only way to keep you safe. Lila's anger wavered, confusion rushing in to fill the space. Nothing made sense. Nothing fit together the way it should. Elias stepped closer, voice urgent. Lila, I know this is overwhelming. I know you have every reason not to trust me, but your father was the best man I ever knew, and I've lived with guilt for 12 years. Please, let me help you now, you and your mother, whatever you need. I don't need your guilt money, Lila said, but the words came out weak. It's not guilt money. It's a debt. Your father gave me everything. My life, my company, my future. The least I can do is make sure his daughter doesn't freeze to death selling candles on street corners. The fight drained out of her. She was so tired, so cold, so confused. I need to go home, she whispered. Let me drive you. You don't know where I live. Then show me. Elias's expression was determined. I want to see where you've been living. I want to meet your mother. And I want answers about why she kept you hidden for 12 years. Lila hesitated, shame curling in her stomach. The thought of this billionaire seeing their crumbling apartment, the broken heater, the overdue bills taped to the fridge. But she was too exhausted to argue. Fine. The drive across town felt surreal. Lila sat in the passenger seat of Elias's Tesla, watching the neighborhood shift from wealthy to working class to barely surviving. With every mile, she felt smaller. When they pulled up to her building, paint peeling, windows cracked, trash bins overflowing, she couldn't look at him. Third floor, apartment 3C. They climbed the stairs in silence. The hallway smelt like mildew and old cooking oil. Someone's television blared through thin walls. Lila's hands shook when she unlocked the door. "Mom?" she called. "I'm home." Her mother appeared from the bedroom, wrapped in 2 blankets despite the space heater running on high. Aisha Armstrong looked older than her 40 years, thin, exhausted, face drawn with chronic pain. Then she saw Elias. All color drained from her face. "No. No, no, no." "Mom?" Lila stepped forward, alarmed. "What's wrong?" But Aisha wasn't looking at her daughter. Her eyes were locked on Elias, filled with terror. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. Elias moved closer, voice gentle. "Aisha, it's been 12 years. They might still be watching." Aisha interrupted, her voice trembling. She looked at Lila, then back at Elias. "You've put us in danger, both of us." Aisha's legs gave out. She crumbled against the wall, sliding down until she sat on the cold floor, still wrapped in her blankets like armor that couldn't protect her anymore. "Mom!" Lila rushed to her side, but Aisha was shaking her head frantically. "You don't understand. You don't understand what I've been protecting you from." Elias closed the apartment door quietly, locking it. His face had gone hard, alert. "Aisha, what happened after David died?" For a long moment, she just stared at him with hollow eyes. Then slowly, the story poured out. "They came the night of the funeral. 2 men, waiting outside our old apartment. They didn't threaten me directly. They were smarter than that. They just asked questions. Where was I going? Did David tell me anything? Did I have copies of his work?" Lila's blood ran cold. "I said no to everything. Played dumb. But then..." Aisha's voice cracked. Then one of them looked at Lila through the window. She was sleeping, just 5 years old. And he smiled at me and said, "Beautiful daughter. Would it be a shame if something happened to her?" "Oh my God," Elias breathed. Aisha's voice cracked. "They told me to stay silent. Forget everything about David's work. Forget about you, Elias. Disappear." Aisha looked at her daughter, tears streaming down her face. "So I did. I changed our names on rental applications, used cash only, moved to neighborhoods where no one asked questions, and I told Lila her father abandoned us because I thought if she resented him, she'd never go looking for answers, never put herself in danger." Lila felt like she was drowning. "You let me hate him for 11 years? I let you live," Aisha shot back, voice raw. "That's what I did. I kept you alive." "But why?" Elias interjected, moving closer. "Why would they target you? David was gone. The investigation closed. What were they afraid of?" Aisha laughed bitterly. "You really don't know, do you?" "Know what?" "David wasn't just your business partner, Elias. He was your protection. The corporation you exposed, Vigiltech, They didn't just want to stop your software launch. They wanted you dead because David had evidence, real evidence, financial records, communications, proof of their illegal surveillance operations. Elias went pale. I never knew he had. He kept it secret because he knew how dangerous it was. He was planning to turn it over to the FBI after your launch. Aisha's hands twisted in the blanket. But they found out. That's why they sent someone that night. They killed David, but they never found the evidence, so they came after me, thinking he told me where it was. Did he? Elias asked quietly. No. Aisha's laugh was broken. I had nothing, but they didn't believe me. For months, I felt eyes on me everywhere. Strange cars following us, our phone line clicked and hummed. Then one night, someone tried to break into our apartment when Lila was sleeping. Lila's breath caught. She had a vague memory of that night, her mother carrying her out of the apartment in the dark, running. That's when I knew I had to disappear completely. So I did. I became nobody. We became nobody. Silence filled the shabby apartment. Somewhere down the hall, a baby cried. Lila felt anger and grief warring in her chest. You should have told me. You were 5 years old.
I'm 16 now. I've spent years thinking my father didn't love me. Lila's voice rose. You could have told me the truth. And put you in more danger? Aisha's eyes flashed. What would you have done, Lila? Gone looking for his killers? Tried to be a hero like your father? I would have understood, Lila shouted. I would have known he loved us. He did love you. Elias's voice cut through their argument, quiet but firm. David talked about you constantly, carried your photo everywhere. The night he died, the last thing he said was your name. Lila's anger shattered into grief. She sank onto the couch, shoulders shaking. Elias turned to Aisha. Why said they might still be watching? Why? It's been 12 years. Aisha's face went even paler. Because they've started again. What do you mean? 3 weeks ago, I saw a black sedan parked across the street, same model they used before. It sat there for hours. Her hands trembled. 2 days later, I found a note tucked under our door. No envelope, just a piece of paper that said, "We know where you are." Elias pulled out his phone immediately. We need to call the police. No, Aisha lurched forward. That's what they want. Official reports, public records, proof we're connected to you again. Then what do we do? Lila asked, voice small. We leave, Aisha said desperately. Tonight, pack whatever we can carry and disappear again. But you can't keep running, Elias interrupted. Not anymore. Let me help. I have resources, security, lawyers. Your resources didn't save David, Aisha said coldly. The words hung in the air like a knife. Elias flinched, but didn't back down. You're right. I failed him. But I won't fail his family again. Please, Aisha, let me. The window exploded inward. Glass shattered across the floor. Lila screamed. Aisha threw herself over her daughter as a brick skidded across the room, trailing shards in its wake. For a moment, everything was chaos. Alarm, movement, Elias rushing to the window. Then Lila saw it. Wrapped around the brick was a piece of paper, secured with rubber bands. With shaking hands, she unwrapped it. 3 words, printed in block letters. Stop digging. We're leaving, right now. Elias's voice cut through the shock, commanding and absolute. He was already pulling out his phone, glass crunching under his shoes as he moved away from the shattered window. Wait, Aisha started. No. Elias looked at her directly. You've been running for 12 years and they still found you. You can't hide anymore, but I can protect you. He pressed the phone to his ear. Marcus, I need a security team at my location immediately and prepare the guest wing, 2 rooms. Elias, we can't just, Lila began.
You can, and you will. His tone softened when he looked at her, but the steel underneath remained. Pack whatever you need for tonight. 5 minutes. We're not staying here another second. Aisha looked like she wanted to argue, but another glance at the brick on the floor, at the threatening message, and the fight drained out of her. They packed in terrified silence. Lila broke clothes into a duffel bag with shaking hands, grabbed her mother's medications, the few photos they owned. Everything they couldn't afford to lose fit into 2 bags. A black SUV arrived within minutes. 2 security personnel in suits flanking Elias as they escorted Lila and Aisha downstairs. The neighbors' curtains twitched, but no one came out. The drive back to Fells Ridge felt like traveling to another planet. The mansion's guest wing was larger than their entire apartment. Lila stood in the doorway of her assigned room, staring at the king-size bed with its pristine white linens, the ensuite bathroom with marble counters, the walk-in closet that echoed when she stepped inside. "This is temporary," she said to no one. But a treacherous part of her whispered, "What if it isn't?" Down the hall, she could hear Elias talking to her mother in low, reassuring tones. Security specialists moved through the house, installing additional cameras, checking locks, establishing protocols. Lila sat on the edge of the impossibly soft bed and tried not to cry. Everything had changed in a single day. This morning, she'd been selling candles in the cold. Tonight, she was sleeping in a billionaire's mansion, learning her father was murdered, discovering her mother had lied for years. Nothing made sense anymore. A soft knock interrupted her spiral. "Lila," Elias' voice. "Can I come in?" She wiped her eyes quickly. "Yeah." He entered carrying a large leather album, the kind people use for important photographs. His expression was gentle, careful. "I thought you might want to see these. Pictures of your father, from when we were building the company." Lila's breath caught. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Elias sat beside her, keeping respectful distance, and opened the album. And there he was. David Armstrong. Younger, vibrant, alive, laughing at a computer screen, holding up a prototype, making ridiculous faces at the camera. In every photo, his eyes crinkled with joy. "He was brilliant," Elias said softly, pointing to one image. "This was the night we got our first investor meeting. He was so nervous, he spilled coffee all over his shirt before we walked in." He smiled at the memory. "So he pitched the entire presentation in a t-shirt that said, 'I'm kind of a big deal.' The investor loved it." Lila traced her father's face with one finger. "I barely remember him." "You were young, but he talked about you constantly, carried this photo everywhere." He tapped an image tucked into the album sleeve, a small picture of 5-year-old Lila missing her front teeth, grinning at the camera. Tears blurred her vision. "He kept that?" "In his wallet, every single day. He showed it to everyone, clients, investors, the janitor. He was so proud of you." Something broke open in her chest. Grief and love and loss, all tangled together. She pressed her hands to her face, shoulders shaking.
Elias hesitated, then carefully put an arm around her. "It's okay," he murmured. "You're allowed to cry." And she did. For the father she lost, for the years of lies, for the childhood stolen by fear and poverty. When the tears finally slowed, she pulled back, embarrassed. "Sorry." "Don't be." Elias stood, giving her space. "Your father was family to me. That makes you family too. Wherever you need, time, space, answers, I'm here." A small, fragile warmth bloomed in Lila's chest. For the first time in years, she didn't feel completely alone. 3 days passed in strange, suspended reality. Lila explored the mansion like a museum, touching expensive furniture tentatively, taking long showers in the enormous bathroom, eating real meals cooked by Elias's chef. Her mother slowly relaxed, color returning to her face as she rested properly for the first time in years.
But the threat remained. On the fourth morning, Elias called them to his office, face grim. My investigator sent his report. He spread documents across the desk. The man who killed David was never identified. The investigation was shut down within weeks, closed as a random robbery gone wrong. But it wasn't random, Aisha said quietly. No. Elias tapped another document. Vigil Tech, the corporation David was investigating, was dissolved 8 years ago after multiple scandals. But 3 of its executives started a new company, Sentinel Solutions. They're in private security now. Lila leaned forward. Private security? That's ironic. Or strategic. Elias's expression darkened. If they're still worried about David's evidence surfacing, a security company would have resources to monitor threats, track people, suppress information. But why now? Why come after us after all these years? He pulled up something on his laptop, turned it to face them. A news article from 2 months ago. Carter Innovations announces merger with Federal Security Initiative. My company just signed a contract with the government, he said quietly. High-level security clearance, access to classified systems. If someone thought David's evidence might resurface now, when my profile is higher than ever, they'd want to eliminate that risk. A chill ran down Lila's spine. They think we have it, whatever David hid. Do you? Elias looked at Aisha. She shook her head helplessly. David never told me. Where? An alarm shrieked through the house. Elias was on his feet instantly, pulling up security feeds on his phone. Perimeter breach, East Gate. On the screen, a figure in black moved through the trees, masked, heading directly for the mansion. Security personnel rushed past the office. Elias positioned himself between Lila and the door, protective and fierce. They know we're here, Aisha whispered. Elias's jaw set with determination. He looked at Lila, really looked at her, and something hardened in his expression. I won't let anyone take away another Armstrong, he said, voice low and absolute. Not ever again.
The intruder was caught within minutes, tackled by security before he reached the mansion. Police arrived, sirens wailing through the quiet neighborhood. By dawn, the man was in custody, and Elias's lawyers were already working with federal investigators. But Lila couldn't sleep. She sat in her borrowed room, surrounded by luxury that still felt foreign, thinking about her father, about the evidence everyone believed existed, about why someone would hunt them for 12 years over something her mother swore she didn't have. Her eyes drifted to the corner where she'd stacked her belongings. 2 duffel bags containing everything from her old life. Almost nothing, really. On impulse, she pulled out the oldest bag, the one containing childhood items her mother had insisted on keeping despite their poverty. A worn stuffed rabbit, a baby blanket, a small wooden box that used to hold Lila's baby teeth. She opened the box, expecting nothing. Inside was a folded piece of paper, yellowed with age. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but somehow achingly familiar at the same time. Neat, careful, slanting slightly to the right. My dearest Lila, if you're reading this, then something has gone terribly wrong, and I'm not there to protect you myself. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Sorrier than you'll ever know. Tears blurred the words. Lila blinked them away, desperate to read more. I need you to know that everything I've done, every risk I've taken has been to make the world safer for you. The people I'm standing against are dangerous. They hurt innocent people for profit. I can't let that continue. I've hidden evidence that will bring them down. Not with your mother. I would never put her in danger like that. And not anywhere they'd think to look. It's somewhere only you would find when you're old enough to understand. inside your rabbit, the one I gave you for your 4th birthday. There's a flash drive sewn into the seam." Lila's breath stopped. She lunged for the stuffed rabbit, fingers frantically searching the seams until she found it, a small, hardened lump in the rabbit's belly. Using nail scissors from the bathroom, she carefully opened the stitching. A tiny flash drive fell into her palm. "If you found this, give it to Elias Carter. He'll know what to do. He's a good man, Lila. Trust him the way I do. I love you more than all the stars in the sky. You're my greatest achievement, my brightest light. Never forget that. Even if I'm not there to tell you myself. Forever, your dad, David." Lila pressed the letter to her chest, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. He'd known. He'd known something might happen to him, and he'd left her a piece of himself. Proof of his love, his trust, his faith in who she'd become. She ran from the room, still clutching the letter and flash drive. Elias was in his office, on the phone with investigators. He looked up when Lila burst through the door, concern flooding his face. "Lila, what's?" She thrust the flash drive at him. "It was in my stuffed rabbit. My dad hid it there. He left me a letter." Elias took the drive carefully, like it was made of glass. Then he read the letter Lila handed him, and his expression crumbled. "He trusted me," he whispered, "even at the end." "What's on it?" Lila asked. Elias plugged the drive into his computer. Files filled the screen. Financial records, emails, audio recordings, photographs. Years of evidence documenting illegal surveillance, blackmail, data trafficking. Everything they needed to destroy Sentinel Solutions. "This is it," Elias breathed. "This is what they've been afraid of." He immediately called his legal team, then the FBI. Within hours, federal agents arrived to collect the evidence. Within days, arrests were made. Executives dragged from their offices in handcuffs, their empire collapsing under the weight of David Armstrong's meticulous documentation. The man who killed David was identified through the records, arrested in another state under an assumed name. Justice, 12 years late, finally arrived. Lila found her mother in the garden, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm afternoon. "Mom?" Elias turned, and her expression was so fragile that Lila's remaining anger dissolved. "I found Dad's letter," Lila said quietly. She sat beside her mother on the bench. "I didn't know about the flash drive. I swear to you, Lila." "I know." Lila took her mother's hand. "You were protecting me the only way you knew how. You were terrified. You were alone. You did what you thought you had to do. I should have told you the truth about how brave he was, how much he loved you. You were scared. I understand now. I forgive you." They cried together in the garden, healing slowly, painfully, but healing nonetheless. 2 months later, Elias stood on a podium in front of journalists and business leaders. "Today, I'm honored to announce the David Armstrong Foundation, dedicated to protecting whistleblowers, supporting families affected by corporate crime, and ensuring that good people who stand up for what is right are never forgotten." In the front row, Lila sat beside her mother, wearing new clothes that actually fit, her face free of the constant worry that had aged her beyond her years. Elias enrolled Lila in a private school, paid for her mother's medical treatment, set up trust funds for both of them, given them not just safety, but a future. But more than that, he'd given them family. After the announcement, reporters clamored for interviews,
But Elias politely excused himself and returned to Lila and Aisha. "Ready?" he asked gently. Lila nodded. The cemetery was quiet, peaceful. Lila walked slowly to the simple headstone that read, "David Michael Armstrong, beloved, son, friend, hero." She knelt, placing one of her handmade candles at the base, the last one from that cardboard tray she'd carried through the cold months ago. "I know the truth now, Dad, about what you did, about how much you loved me, about how brave you were." Tears slipped down her cheeks, but they weren't bitter anymore. "I'm proud to be your daughter." Behind her, Elias and Aisha stood together, united in their grief and their love for the man who changed all their lives. As they walked back to the car, Elias placed a protective hand on Lila's shoulder, gentle, steady, permanent. A new family, forged through loss and truth and love. Lila looked back once at her father's grave, the candle flickering in the breeze. Then she turned toward the future, no longer alone, no longer afraid. Finally free.